Alright, okay, good evening everyone. So welcome to today's session. Right, as usual, what we're going to be doing here is to run through the markets, highlight some of the key opportunities and potential trade setups. Right, and of course, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put it into the chat. I'll be able to then take a look and answer your questions accordingly. Okay. So let's start off with the dollar index over here. Okay. So the dollar actually saw a pretty impulsive drop to the downside as of last Friday from Jerome's Powell kind of command. And of course, moving forward from here, we are expecting the dollar to continue to push a little bit lower towards the 797 area. Okay. The key thing here to note, of course, is there's still that possibility where price can make a pop, kind of take out this high, then only start moving lower, right? But of course, price can also start going lower from there. In any case, we are generally going to be looking more on the sell side opportunity, looking for a sell trade setup. Okay, so that's the take for this week. The focus on the dollar here is likely going to be bearish. Okay, so if you bring that over to the euro or the pound dollar, right? I would say major pairs in short, we are looking at dollar weakness confluences as well, right? Most of these major pairs are giving us the same alignment overall. So if you take a look at the euro, we are looking at a euro dollar potentially going back up and retest the previous high around 1.18 area. Okay, and of course, same thing here. There is a good possibility that price can actually take out that low first as part of a liquidity sweep before starting to go higher, right? I'm not too comfortable in looking at the buy setup for now, simply because this push here today was pretty impulsive to the downside, right? But overall direction is still pretty straightforward. We're gonna focus on the upside, right? So just look out for buy trade setup. Okay, I would say the pound is a little bit more comfortable in terms of the upside. Okay, now obviously we can still do something like that, take out that low, then the bounce, which give us a bigger tree wave. That is definitely still on the table. Okay, but I would say at least on the nearer, shorter term time frame, this pullback isn't very impulsive, right? So that gives us the odds where this can start to go higher from here on. Okay. Nonetheless, as I mentioned, both the euro as well as the pound, we are essentially looking at upside potential, and you want to be focusing on the buy trade setup, right? So any sort of a corrective pullback naturally can be seen as an opportunity to get involved in the upside. Okay, so if you take a look at the pound dollar here, this is on the this is on the hourly chart. There is actually that opportunity just today. You can see how price tagged the 67 fit level, and of course currently making a nice little move to the upside. Okay, so for those of you who managed to capitalize on this trade, it's actually a good opportunity to shift stops to break even, because we are already moving away from our entry point, moving towards our target, and it's already at least 1:1 is always a good sign to shift your stops to break even. Okay, if you're in this trade. Now, if you're not on this trade right now, I don't think you want to be jumping in immediately, but I would feel that there's definitely ample opportunities that we can look for the next trade setup, right? Now, it may not necessarily be on the euro or the pound, okay, but you can always capitalize on the dollar weakness on other pairs as well, which I'm personally looking at the dollar Canadian, the dollar yen, as well as potentially silver may give us an opportunity to ride on the dollar weakness. Okay, so GBP USD definitely quite a bit of an upside. If I kind of zoom out a little bit, I would say this upside, if you are looking at next opportunity to ride it, there will be opportunity to get involved as well, right? Because I think price would probably go back and retest that previous high at 1.38, okay, which we do have quite a bit of room that we can look to capitalize on, right, for pound dollar. Right, so that's on GBP USD. Next up is Aussie. Now Aussie over here, from my take, is a little bit of a mixed signal right now, not the clearest of all. First thing here, you can see that we have taken the previous low as sort of a potential liquidity. However, the overall structure seems to be still remaining as a bearish market, right? Unless price actually continue moving higher and take out this invalidation, then yes, I would then conclude that the bearish structure has ended, right? And when we'll look at upside, right? But until then, I will be cautious in buying it too aggressively, because this can simply be just a pullback, and then from there we start to see another move down to respect this entire bearish channel structure. Okay, so in terms of the major pairs, Aussie dollar would be one that I would remain patient for now, even though yes, we do have the dollar weakness in a way, right? But Aussie dollar here, I would personally just be a little bit more patient, right? Other major pairs seems to give us a better clarity in terms of the directional and the structural perspective. Okay, yeah, so then we move on to the dollar Canadian. So dollar Canadian over here, I'm looking at short-term sell, right? Now the overall structure is bullish, but last Friday we have this impulsive move. If this week we can get some sort of a corrective pullback, I would expect one more push, right? Which means that we can capitalize on the third move to the downside. From an Elliott wave perspective, that will be your 3-wave structure, right? 1, 2, 3. We'll look to capitalize on that, right? So this one here, if you go down to the lower time frame, okay, we do have a valid setup. Okay, so this one here, you can see that the market, before the impulsive move, the market actually crawled to the upside quite a bit. Okay, so that generally creates liquidity, and of course we can then also see that the move down here has successfully break that previous low, right? So that's some sort of a change of character, break of structure, and leaves behind a huge market imbalance, right? So overall, I'm pretty comfortable in taking this potential sell here, around the FIP at the 67 Fibonacci retracement, right? So the price point that is around 1.3890 if we can round up a little bit. Okay, your stop needs to go above that previous swing high, which will put you at 1.3925, and target on this trade, as a short-term pullback sell trade. I wouldn't target too far off, right? I would simply just put at where the previous structure is, right? And of course, if you kind of look left, couple of confluences of structure as well, right? So we do expect price to actually make some bounce and reaction off this low if it were to continue to come down, right? So that's where I'm going to put our target at 1.3850. Okay, so this trade setup, pretty decent, very, very straightforward as well, where we have like higher time frame building into the lower time frame. Of course, with Fibonacci ratios, our risk reward ratio is going to be maintaining on an average of 1:2. Okay, so pretty decent setup here that you can consider to have it in your watch list for this week. Okay, then of course, very similar here, it's going to be the dollar yen. Pretty similar. Okay, pretty similar to the dollar Canadian side of things, where we are looking at sell side. Okay, structurally a little bit different from dollar CAD, but direction wise it's kind of similar and aligned with the dollar index, right? So what we see here is an impulsive leg, corrective kind of pullback. Okay, in Elliott wave, this is a potential expanding flat. We have a minor impulsive drop as of last Friday, and then right now it's doing that pullback, right? So we do expect one more push down, right? Which we can then conclude as this is a 1, 2, 3. And what we're looking at is essentially that third wave down. Okay, so if I bring you to the lower time frame, the setup is kind of similar, right? I mean, all the setup essentially kind of looks similar, because that's how I'm looking at executing my trades, right? So you can see over here, we do have, again, prior to that impulsive drop, there's that bit of a crawl, right? And obviously that serves as a liquidity. Over here, we can even say that this was the start of the liquidity. Okay, the break of structure, to be honest, is not the most ideal, because it's just a tiny break. But basically this entire move, you can see that we take out some minor lows in between. Okay, so in a way, I'm pretty okay and comfortable again in taking this trade. Okay, if price were to pull back a little bit more towards the 148 area, okay, that would be where the entry point is going to be. Our stop is going to be above that swing high, and of course target here, you can aim for the previous low. Now for dollar yen, if you want to go for extended target, that is definitely something we can look into as well, where we can look to capitalize somewhere between the 145.30 area. Right, so if I'm going to stretch this to 145.30, the risk reward ratio is amazing, right? You can see here is about 1:3.6. Okay, so dollar yen, definitely another one that you want to have it in your watch list for this week. Okay, the opportunity is definitely there. Okay, next up, gold. Okay, so if you take a look at gold here, I'm gonna be maintaining a neutral point of view. Okay, just to update this a little bit. The reason for that is really because I would say quite similar to the Aussie perspective, right, where we have a couple of like mixed signals going on right now. We have this as an impulse leg, obviously that's a correction. We have this minor impulse, but then again, we haven't really taken out that high. So can the market then starts to come back down? There is that possibility, right? So at this very juncture right now, price is testing the 618. Okay, and it does seems like this might turn into a crawl, which suggests potentially reversing back to the downside, as long as this swing high here has remained intact, right? This invalidation is still there. I would probably just be neutral and be patient for now in gold, right? I'm not required to trade gold only, right? So I'm gonna put this aside, right? But if you are interested in precious metal, I would then bring your attention to silver, which to be honest is a little bit cleaner from an overall structure perspective. Okay, because silver here, you can see we have this low, we have the market pushing up, pulling back, then pushing up again with clear momentum. And if we kind of look at it from the perspective of a three-wave development, right, we have the WXY structure over here, right, which you can see WX, and of course this is Y, which can turn into an internal 1, 2, 3, right? And that gives us an opportunity to look up for this move. Okay, so same thing here. If I go down to the hourly time frame, you can see that we do have a setup built in here as well, right? We have some nice little confluence. You can see here previous structures. You have this impulsive leg, break of structure as well, obviously. Okay, so this pullback currently looks very corrective in nature, which is a good sign, because if this is pulling back correctively, it suggests upside continuation. Okay, so for me, silver here, we're looking at an opportunity to get involved at 38.15, okay, or 38.10. Stop will be pretty tight, just where that previous low is at 37.60. And then my first target is going to be this high, right, this swing high. But of course, if you go back to the high time frame, we can potentially look at our extended target at 39.45, 39.50, which is essentially where that previous high is. Okay, now can it break the high? Absolutely, right? Because I think fundamentally precious metal can still go higher. But if again I don't want to be overly aggressive, right? Let's just say we're gonna aim for the 39.48. Okay, 39.48 or 45. Okay, 39.45 is that, right? That extend our risk reward to 2.6, right? The additional 0.6 that we can look to capitalize on as well. Okay, so yeah, I mean, silver to me this week is way clearer than gold. Okay, so obviously if you're interested in commodities, silver would be a better one. Okay. Then the other one here to note, okay, would be U.S. crude oil. I mean, not really note, but the next one in my list is U.S. crude oil. The expectation this week here is for price to continue higher as part of a pullback. But I don't see a clear sign of trading it. Okay, I don't see that impulsive late that give us that short-term upside. Okay, so crude oil here, I'm not gonna be focusing too much on it. I'll probably just leave it aside and be patient for this week. Maybe moving forward, we'll get another opportunity, but as of now, that's really nothing there. Okay, then we have the S&P 500 or general US index. Overall, I would be maintaining a bullish bias, and I would say if we can get a nice little 1, 2, 3, that will be an opportunity that we can look to buy it up. Okay, buy it to the upside. So bullish. Okay, directional bias. Look out for buy trade setup. For me right now isn't something that immediately we're gonna have a setup, but definitely the direction is pretty straightforward. Okay. Then moving on, we have the pound yen. Okay. Pound yen to me, in terms of structure here, we do have this as an impulse leg. We do have this currently as a correction. So naturally, we're looking at more upside. Okay. So definitely bullish in terms of the directional bias, and as of now, the key area or point of interest is going to be around that 50 and 618, right? So that will put you around 197.65 to 197 psychological number. If we can get a pullback towards that zone, that is where we're going to look for buy, right? So overall, if I kind of clean this up a little bit, okay, that's the view on it, right? I mean, overall, likely gonna be more upside from here. Okay, yeah. So if you want to be conservative, you probably just want to take note that this is pretty much a strong little resistance. But even with that as a resistance, you don't need to take your target all the way, right? I mean, you just look for entry somewhere there, and then you look to capitalize this move. Is perfectly fine, right? As part of like swing trade, the profit potential is sufficient. Okay. Then next up is Aussie yen, which is something I'm also paying a little bit more attention for the week, right? Because if today we start to see some sort of a corrective pullback here, Aussie yen may give us an opportunity to look to buy. Right. So the view on Aussie yen here, you can see, is that we have completed potentially this channel, right? 1, 2, 3. We had a pretty nice little bounce here, so if it gets a correction here, that's an upside opportunity we can look to get involved in. Okay, so key areas to look out for in terms of the Aussie yen would be the 95.15 to 95 area. That would definitely be an point of interest key area that you can look for and buy, trade, setup, or entry. Okay, so bullish bias on this. Pound. Okay, pound over here, we did had a nice little break of structure. Okay, but the pullback looks pretty impulsive. So I would say this week's focus wouldn't be so much on the buy side yet. But if let's say we can get a corrective pullback here, that can build into some sort of a head and shoulder pattern, then of course we can capitalize on this move back towards the key area, right? Short-term sell for this week. Okay. So this might take a little while. This might be, setting up, maybe going closer towards the end of this week before we get an opportunity to sell it, okay? Because this corrective pullback, we want to give it time. We want it to be slow, right? So something to be worth noting, but not something immediately that we have an opportunity to jump in. Okay, then next up, lastly here on crypto side of things, we have BTC. Okay, so BTC is pretty interesting because we had the news, hitting and breaking all-time high, and then the market just instantly kind of reverse and then coming back and retest all these lows, right? So right now I'm actually more of a neutral perspective because with this entire move, right, we can see that price may be taking some time to do its pullback, right? Let me just clean up all this here. Okay, if I'm gonna pull a fib from the swing low to the swing high, okay, 6-1 is there, which with the current look at it, likely price is gonna test that area, right? Very, very high chance. So again, you want to observe how price is going to react here. If it gives you some sort of a liquidity sweep and then an internal break of structure, that would build the next buy opportunity, right? Because then you want to see liquidity sweep, you want to see a break of structure, some sort of a fair value gap pullback. That's your entry and buy trade setup. Okay, but until then, my take on this is just going to be maintaining a neutral point of view. Just be patient. You don't rush things through. Okay. So this week's focus, you can see here in terms of the pairs that I've highlighted, a lot of them are mainly on the major pairs. Okay, so those are the ones that you probably want to pay a little bit more attention to that. Good. Okay. Other than that, any other questions that you guys have? All good. Right, so if there's no questions, generally that's all from my side. Definitely a lot of opportunities that we can keep an eye on for this week. All the best, and I'll see you guys in the next session.